Good morning, comic book fans. Welcome back to Comics in 5 Minutes. I am your loving host, Shorty. And yes, this is just one of those random things that's going to happen until the world goes back to normal, I'm afraid. But today, I'm at least getting to do something that I'm really enjoyed. Serial by Terry Moore. The name Terry Moore is never usually one that really makes me put stuff onto order. There's one regular customer who gets Rachel Rising, who's been getting that since we opened. But that is literally it. Nobody's expressed an interest. Nobody's been like, oh my gosh, have you heard what amazing things Terry Moore is doing? But there's something about the cover of this one and the concept of it, which is just like, yeah, you know what? We actually do quite well, like on the horror kind of end of comic books in this store. We get a lot of people specifically for it. We have a lot of people debating about it and looking for the next good thing. Some people like simple schlock horror stuff like Crossed. Some people like myself go for a really nice portmanteau horror over several parts. Other people just like a nice haunted house story. It's kind of cool that we've got all these variants within the horror genre within just comic books as a medium. And this one weirdly isn't as horror as I thought it was going to be. I mean, it shouldn't be a big surprise. Terry Moore is not known for that kind of thing. He's more like the indie darling of the comic book world. And this one, it's certainly an unpleasant comic book in places, but it's also got one of the most satisfying panels I've ever seen. I'm going to kick myself here because I forgot to mark the page. There it is. That is just a very satisfying kick in the nards. There's something about that, like the way the guy's like leaning into it and the way the hair is going and a little bit of spit out. Yeah, that's just beautifully done. But that's pretty much the only thing I can really tell you much about this comic book without spoiling it. And yes, I know there's the whole like, oh, it's a spoiler if it actually, it's just a plot or it's not like a big twist or anything like that. It's like, well, unfortunately, this comic book is pretty much based on the idea of keeping you guessing. There's a lot of stuff going on which isn't really explained. Some of the stuff that happens, which is like, oh, okay, I think that makes sense now. Just a couple of panels later, you're thinking, well, hang on, how does that tie into what's just happened? So I can kind of start with what leads up to that, I suppose, just to give you a brief nuance of the story. It's a 16-year-old girl who's been driven home from work by her boss, who then attempts to sexually assault her, and she kicks him in the nads. You don't really know much else of what's going on there. I mean, to be honest, it's the kind of story which it gets told a lot for obvious reasons because it happens a lot, and it's handled really quite nicely. It's the kind of thing where I don't think particularly needs a content warning for it because it's weirdly got kind of a happy ending, in so much as it's possible. I mean, I don't want to spoil anything. I might be dropping too many clues here, but everything that happens after that takes you down a completely different path, including at one point a dream sequence. And I've said in the past before, I'm not a fan of dream sequences. Looking at you, Tom King. 6 issues. Just calm down, fella. It's one of those that I've always kind of seen them as just kind of a way of telling you a story point without having to actually weave it into the story. You can just have a completely separate universe effectively to show complex motivation just by basically saying, oh, they're dreaming of this that way, this is what they think, instead of actually, it's kind of like telling people instead of showing them when you get to dream sequences. But there's something about the art style in this one I really liked, because it goes from quite nice, almost photorealistic kind of stuff in a very cool black and white style into an almost Saturday morning cartoon vibe, with lashings of ultraviolence, which is always good fun. But weirdly, for a dream sequence, and why it doesn't really bother me too much is it's more of an undercurrent of what's going on. Like, it's the obvious thing it's telling you already know. Like, there's not been that part of the personality has not been hidden at any point. It's all out there on Front Street. But the undercurrent of something which is just an unusual little twist on it is yet to be revealed. And then when the character wakes up, there's even more layers to it. And all of a sudden you're thinking, well, hang on, there is definitely something different going on here than I not even first or second thought. And then you get back to the title, Serial, which makes you think that no matter what is going on, it wouldn't have that kind of title unless there was something like, not so spree killing, but continuous murders. And that, again, is just like, well, hang on, was what happened an accident or intentional? Was it part of a plan, or is it the start of a plan? Is it what gives an impetus to move forward? And all of these questions are not answered. And one thing that I've said repeatedly since I started doing these reviews is my favorite kind of issue one for a comic book is the one that leaves you not only guessing what the heck's going on, but also gives you a little bit more information. This one actually managed to do both because you don't really know much at all from the blurb on this comic book, and the cover art styles don't really add much to it anyway. But what it does inside is twist all of what you know and all of what you expect, and keep you guessing about what you think you figured out since reading it. And I've got to say that's a fairly strong start for me. I'm not sure how many issues it is, but I have a feeling that it might be one for me to pick up and trade. Just because I think the idea of sitting there and reading it all together and be able to then go back and read it all again would be good. Reminds me a lot of the way I enjoyed reading Lodger, which was another one of those, like everything you thought you knew you didn't quite know, and it kept twisting and kept turning back on itself. If this is even half as good as that, it's going to be a treat. Anyway, that's it for me. I'm probably not going to do release until Tuesday. Until Tuesday now when we get a new delivery. Check out our Facebook page to see all the shiniest of the new stuff we've got coming in. And if you want to set up orders with our store, League of Comic Geeks, and be searching for Ka-Pow Comics. That's us. Other than that, take it easy. Stay safe. Bye.